Templar report, I want to bring to your attention today certain things that's happened in America. Zuckerberg's been dragged into court in 40 states. They're after him for his manipulation and all the rest of it, which is a good sign. I want to talk to you about 39 frozen stiff Chinese people found in the back of a lorry trying to sneak into Britain. And of course, I have to give you the latest updates on Brexit, what's happening. Remember, I told you Brexit wouldn't happen this side of a war. Was I right? I was right. I'll see you on the Templar report and you'll find out more and all about it. Hello, Jim Dowson here, guest presenter with the Templar Report. Few things to speak to you today about, and I must start really, first of all, with Brexit. I know everybody's fed up with it, but this shows you, and Americans and Australians and Canadians take note. This is how crazed and how determined the Liberals, so-called Liberals, are when they don't get their own way. They're genuinely like spoiled children. And because 17.5 million people voted in this country to leave the EU and they didn't like it, they have done everything to destroy this. Now, I want to tell you this, and I'm not doing it smugly, but I was one of the few people on the planet the day after the election, the day after the referendum, when we won the referendum to leave Europe, I said, don't get excited, it will not happen. Do you remember this video? Here it's here. There's cool hipsters who live in the urban areas who are completely detached from reality. And not only that, they look upon the normal man and woman of Britain with utter contempt. So we have spoken, we have voted, no. We are not worthy of our opinion being listened to and they want to overturn it. Now normally people would just say, forget about it, it's sour grapes. This is far more than sour grapes. Cameron's resigned, but he's not going until October. Therefore he's not pressing the Section 50 protocol, which starts the process of getting us out. And if there's total chaos and whatever in Parliament, that might never get pressed. Do not underestimate what's going on here. This is serious. The petition, not so serious. But the machinations behind the scenes are extremely serious. And what we're looking at here is, for the first time since the 1640s, we have despotic rulers refusing to take into account the democratic will of the people. Now, the last time this happened in England, this ended up in a civil war. Genuinely. Now, what we have now are people on the Liberal side and people actually in Parliament, in the Labour Party and in the Conservative Party, and especially in the Liberal Party, actually conspiring together to destroy the Brexit referendum. Something that over 70% of the people in this country voted in, and the majority voted in favour of us leaving the EU. This is extremely serious. This is such a fundamental attack on the basics and the basic principles of a democratic society. It's outrageous. There you go. I told everybody. And people said, you're daft, Jim's crazy, he's went mad. I told people, short of a war, and I mean an actual war, short of a land invasion, we will not be allowed to leave the EU. Because, look, who's in the EU? Some of the countries in the EU don't even have paved roads, for goodness sake. So there's Britain and Germany. Germany's the number one big boys, Britain's number two. They say France is number three, but no. So it's Britain and Germany. We are the financial engine of the EU. The intellectual engine and everything else that goes with it. You remove one of those big boys, bang, it's gone. So that's it. There is no more EU. The whole thing collapses in a heap. There are forces at work, even in their own country, special groups, special interests, even Secret Service, who will prevent at all costs this. Now, what we're seeing at the moment is Parliament and democracy being completely trodden underfoot. But if it takes that people need to be killed, silenced, annihilated, that'll happen also. We will not be allowed to leave the EU. Now, even the deal Boris is trying to get through at the moment, we're not leaving the EU. That deal does not get us out the EU, believe me. That deal does not get us out the EU. And it causes a problem in the UK because it basically makes Northern Ireland like some kind of tax haven. So economically, Northern Ireland will be one of the best placed countries in the world to do business in or through. But Northern Ireland's got that whole problem with British and Irish, and I can assure you the Ulster Protestants, regardless of how much money they get, they will not have it. So you could have a civil war in your hand, and it's not rhetoric. I come from that stable. We won't have it. It will not happen. Period. End of story. No discussion about it. The place will erupt in a fiery furnace, and that's it. But it's not going to happen. And I did tell people that. People wouldn't believe me. It won't happen. And what you'll see over the next few months is Labour, the Lib Dems, the Scottish Nationalists, and all these people ganging up to make sure that not only Brexit doesn't happen, but there's no general election, because the left wing gets annihilated in a general election. So they don't want that. So I really don't know what Boris Johnson can do about it, but we're fast approaching the situation, and the Liberals and the lefties should take note of this. They have destroyed the public's trust in democracy to such a state now that it's meaningless. It's almost meaningless. And when democracy becomes meaningless, you have civil war. And I keep telling people this. I've been telling people this for years and nobody believed me. Now people are beginning to say this is heading towards civil conflict. And it is. It really is. Because we could have the situation where Parliament is so destroyed by the Liberals, there is no choice but for somebody to say, that's it, like Oliver Cromwell did, that's it, these are all a bunch of crooks, get out, and suspend Parliament and have a state of emergency with the army on the streets and democracy suspended. Who would have ever thought Britain and Westminster, the mother of all parliaments, would get to this position? How did we get there? Is it right-wing fascist dictators, neo-Nazis, racist haters? No. We've got here by middle-class, well-educated, urban elites refusing to participate in the democratic process, which means people vote, whoever wins, wins. They cannot accept this. They've got away with it in other countries in Europe, and now they're trying it in Britain. And I don't think it's going to work. So I really believe that we're in serious peril, and we're probably 2 or 3 months away from a state of emergency, which could lead to serious civil conflict. And remember, in Britain, there are several thousand Antifa people who have already been fighting in Syria and who have equipment, who have weapons, and who have the motivation to take to the streets. Same with the Islamic community. So we could be living in the very last days of a normal society. Well, if it happens. But make no mistake about it, we're ready, Templars are ready for it. But I don't think even the government's ready for it. So I pray to God that it doesn't happen. But if it happens, we'll have to deal with it the way we can. So, and remember, because I forget this all the time, like the video, click subscribe, press the bell, and please comment below, because I like to see comments and see what their take on this is. And if nothing else, I mean, I'm not the most educated or eloquent person online, but I'm telling you the truth, and I mean it, and we have sources that other people don't have, and the establishment are getting very worried about the reality and the real possibility that Britain could explode, and we'll end up like one of these banana republics, everybody fighting in the street and burning carts in the middle of the Whitehall. It's ridiculous, but brought about by liberals, by demented, mentally ill, left-wing fascists. That's the only word for them. So, like the video, click subscribe, press the bell, and comment. Right, moving on from that, because it's too depressing, I'm fed up listening to it. I want to go to America now and talk about the Zook. Have you been Zooked? Mark Zuckerberg, who thinks he is God. And these days he's almost got as much power in his mind as God, maybe more, in his opinion. But anyway, in America now, over 40 states have took lawsuits, antitrust lawsuits out against Facebook. And the whole organisation is quite interesting because, you know, they hide behind this. We're a publisher. We're a platform, not a publisher. So we shouldn't be held responsible for what anybody says. Look, I hate the guy. I think he's the most dangerous man that's been put in God's earth for probably the last 500 years. I really mean that. He's a very dangerous man. But I do have some sympathy for him. But when he first started Facebook, you couldn't get on it unless you had a verified account. People knew your name, address, where you were, everything. That was fine. Nowadays, you look at all these trolls, mainly left-wing, wee pencil-neck scumbags. They're all on Facebook saying all sorts of mad stuff. And you've got the crazy neo-Nazis, again, using fake names, you know, Thor, Hammer, and putting up mad stuff about Jews and everything. Again, hiding behind fake IDs and saying mad stuff. And then people say, look, you shouldn't be allowing this. Well, what do you want the guy to do? Do you want the guy to become a censor? That's very dangerous, allowing a company to be a censor. And Mark Zuckerberg's resisted it. He's resisted it when it comes to left-wing comments. When it comes to right-wing comments, we're all banned. I mean, everybody's banned. Just about every right-wing commentator now is banned. I'm banned worldwide, not just me, my name, but my face. I'm banned. Even if my daughter puts my face up saying, here's my dad at my baby's baptism, boom, banned. So it's nonsense. But he's in a difficult position. And I think the authorities and government should take him to task and should sort this out. But here's a simple thing, and you can send me the cheque for £10 million later, Mark. Just make sure, dead simple. Anybody who wants a Facebook account must have the photo ID up. They must have an account number which is verified every 3 months with proof of address. So you need their passport or driving licence or ID and utility bills. And that is updated every 3 months. So you want to go on Facebook and put a comment up that's absolutely outrageous or even calling for violence, that's fine. We have things in every country across the world called the judiciary and the police force or law enforcement officers. So if you put something up that is illegal, you can report that to the police. The police can come, arrest you, make a report, and if there's enough evidence, you will go before a court and be tried for putting up stuff saying kill this guy or whatever it is. That's it. But me as a right-wing person saying I don't like my country being swamped by immigrants is not and should never be illegal. And it's certainly not worthy or merit. It doesn't merit somebody in Facebook banning me for life and having no social platform. So this is the problem. If I'm doing something wrong, come and charge me, come and take me to court, and we'll fight it out in front of a group of my peers if I've crossed the line or not crossed the line. It is not for Facebook, because who works in Facebook? A load of green-haired, weirdo, lefty liberals. So probably anything I say is offensive to them. So you're banned. And all the right-wing people watching this, Christian people, just normal, middle-of-the-road right-wing people, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You hardly have to say anything. Boom, you're banned. You cannot criticise, you cannot debate, you cannot argue with anything to do with transsexuals, with race, with immigration, with Israel, anything like that. Boom, you're gone, you're banned. That isn't right. We have laws in our countries that we, the people, have instituted through our elected representatives and through our law enforcement agencies. It's for them to take action, not for Mark Zuckerberg or his army of green-haired, lesbo, two-spirit, non-binary freaks who work out of San Francisco. It's never going to work. So let's hope that gets through the courts in America and is successful in reining in this very, very dangerous and out-of-control power called Facebook. I think in years to come we'll look back and think, how was that ever allowed to develop? So, I'd like to get back to Britain now and just tell you about the news this week. I was out of Britain this week. I was in Europe doing some stuff. And I learned through the news that 39 Chinese illegal immigrants had been found dead in the back of a lorry in London. Frozen stiff, like a Christmas turkey or a Thanksgiving turkey. Frozen stiff. I mean, it's terrible. Poor souls. But there's a couple of things here. They were trying to sneak into my country illegally. So I don't have that much sympathy. Oh, that'll be me getting criticised now. No sympathy. Listen, I couldn't care less. These people were coming into my country illegally. A few generations ago, we'd have shot them. So they froze themselves to death because they climbed into a freezer lorry and they were frozen to death. So, no, I don't have that much sympathy. Of course, for human beings, a Christian, have sympathy for the families of these people and all the rest of it, of course. But I've got more sympathy for the people in my country who cannot get jobs and cannot get housing because people are coming into my country illegally and bleeding the system dry. And I make no apologies for saying that. That's just the way it is. It's not right. But anyway, these 39 Chinese frozen to death. Terrible, terrible tragedy, but one that should never have happened in the first place. But it turns out the guy who was driving the truck's from Northern Ireland. And the word in the grapevine is this guy, this Chinese smuggling enterprise is the work of South Armagh Republicans. This is at the old IRA heartland. So now we have people who fought the British and murdered masses of Protestants in the South Armagh and the British soldiers to clear Ulster from Ireland from the Brits. And their slogan, you remember, in America, NORAID, and people in America and Canada and Australia and New Zealand who gave money to the IRA, the old war cry was Brits out. Well, it still is Brits out. But it's changed slightly because these people now are saying Brits out, Africans, Chinese, Vietnamese, Mongolians, West Africans, South Americans in. So Brits out, everybody else in. And, real Irish people, decent Irish people, are horrified because there are small villages all over Ireland that have been engulfed with hundreds and hundreds of people from countries nobody's even heard of. And they're just arriving. And people are saying, how are they here? And when they're caught here illegally, they don't even get thrown out of the country. They get put in centres at the taxpayers' expense. Then they're educated, they're taught English, they're found jobs and they're found housing. It's unbelievable. And people are getting very angry about it. But what is interesting is a lot of these people who were once involved in the Republican violent campaign against the Brits, they're the people running it. They're the people who are involved in the people smuggling. So I can't understand that, why you would spend 20, 30 years fighting what they class as an occupying power to save your land, to save Ireland, and then just engage in 10 years of very profitable people smuggling to bring foreigners into your land, which will destroy your culture. Doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand it, and I think the people in Ireland are getting very fed up of these people waving the green flag when it suits them, but in the rest of the time they're doing Mr. Soros's business and they're working in conjunction with the Killarney plan. So, if you do support people like Sinn Féin and that, please stop it, because these people are absolutely clones of Killarney. They are dupes of George Soros, and they are working hand in glove with all the agencies who want to destroy Ireland. And that might even include the British government, but there's more damage being done to Ireland right now than the famine ever did, and it's a tragedy to stand and watch. It's not so much happening in the north, but the south is in real trouble, and everybody should lend their help and assistance to the Irish as they try and scramble to defend their own ancient land, because it's happened so suddenly. People haven't got organised yet, and I would wish the Irish the best of luck and hope that God is with them as they try and restructure and reorganise to defend their ancient homeland. Lastly, it's coming up for the weekend. I always like to give people a wee bit of scripture, because at the end of the day, and people, by the way, some people say, especially British people, I like your films, Jim, but knock it in the head with the religion stuff. Get this into your head very clearly. I'll never knock it in the head with religion, because that is me from the top of my head to my big toe. I am a follower of the Lamb. I am a devotee of Christ Jesus. I am washed in his blood. And everything that I try and do in life is to glorify him and his kingdom, and to promote the one true faith, which is found only through Christ Jesus and his shed blood. Plain enough. You don't like the videos, you don't like the religious stuff, don't watch them. Don't watch them, go away. Because you probably wouldn't like me in real life. You probably really would not like me in real life. But I want to talk to you here about, there's a wee bit in Habakkuk. I'll get back to the Old Testament. A lot of folk don't really go far back. They're always involved in reading Revelations and some of that stuff, and get wrapped up in it, or the end times. Like, don't worry about it. What's for you will not go past you. You don't need to know what's going to happen in the future. It's nonsense. Worry about what's happening now. So my real serious advice to Christians is, get out the book of Revelations. It's titivation. It's almost like ecclesiastical porn for some people. They titivate themselves into a state of ecstasy, wondering what's going to happen in the future. Look, let's try and deal with what's happening now. Let's try and deal with here and now, and we'll worry about what happens later. In fact, we won't worry about it. The Bible tells you, don't have a care for tomorrow, because you don't know what tomorrow will bring. But in Habakkuk 3:18, it says, "Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will joy in the God of my salvation." I will joy in the God of my salvation. How is that important? Well, it's really important, because who else is there? I mean, we're talking about, look at the state of America. It's falling apart. Britain, falling apart. Europe, falling apart. Everything's falling apart. Look at our towns and our cities. They're physically falling apart. Not just morally, spiritually, but they're physically falling apart. Look at our old institutions, some of the churches we've got. Look at the Catholic Church. Look at the Presbyterian Church. They're all falling apart. They're all going into degeneracy and apostasy and unbelief. And it's terrible. And, if you're connected to your church, and that's it for you, and it falls apart on you, a lot of people just walk away and they've lost their faith, they've lost everything. And I say this, and I say this especially to people who are really connected to church rather than connected to the spiritual aspects of God. And I say this to a lot of my Catholic friends and Orthodox friends. Look, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. yet will I trust in God, despite everything. So, look, when your friends betray you, that happens to everybody. When your family betray you, when your church betrays you, when the situation is too much to deal with, everything's against you, and even though God destroys you to promote his kingdom, me personally, I will yet trust in the Lord, and so should you. And this nonsense now for these modern churches and the modern Catholics and the modern Protestants and the Pentecostals and the Charismatics and the prosperity gospel, that if you're in with God, everything's great, your life's great, your world's great, nothing bad will happen to you. Look, sometimes God actually destroys us to promote his kingdom. And if you think of the holy martyrs, the millions of holy martyrs over the years, you think of the people getting in front of the lines in the Roman times, and I heard a horrible story once about North Korea when the communists took over. They lined up hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of Christians, and put them all on the ground, head to toe, head to toe, head to toe, right along this road for miles. I think it was about 35 miles. And then a steamroller started at one end and just started running over them, crushing them. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? Just lying there, somebody else's feet at your heads on the ground, you can hear the bones cracking, everything cracking in, and you know it's coming for you next. Quite horrendous, and I think they even went the other way, so it was coming up your legs first. I mean, I can't even imagine then. It's horrible. But I actually spoke to a man who was involved in that time with communism in the north and escaped. And he said that many, many, many communists were converted that day because they never heard anybody screaming, anybody cry out. All they could hear was psalms being sung and hymns being sung and prayers being sung. Nobody was screaming, nobody was crying out, nobody was begging for mercy. People sang. And the same thing happened in the beach in Egypt a couple of years ago when ISIS took a load of Coptic Christians in the orange boiler suits and took them out to the beach and cut their heads off with little knives. It was horrible. Well, I've seen that. I've seen it for real. I've seen the video. Not one of those men cried out. All of those men in unison sang Coptic psalms and hymns. Quite incredible. So through them, many, many people that I know personally today have been converted just by watching those martyrs. People who had no time for God, no time for religion. They thought, if they guys can die like that in those circumstances, singing God's praise, there must be something to it. And they started getting interested in God, and now they're converted, now they're Christians. So, regardless of what happens, yet will I trust in God. And I would say to you, regardless of what happens, the church can fall apart, the Templars can fall apart, Jim Dowson can fall apart. And I feel like it. I feel as if I'm falling apart, I can assure you. My bones are weary and aching. But God will never desert you. So no matter what happens in your life, your watchword shall be, yet will I trust in the Lord. That's all from me for the Templar Report. I hope you have a very nice weekend, and remember, stick close to God and you won't go far wrong. God bless you.
The threat is real, and we are on the front line. In a world of misinformation and attacks from the left and mainstream media, censorship, deplatforming, it is time to call out the fake news and bring you the truth. We are the Knights Templar. Visit our website and join today. We are the Resistance. Deus Vult.